do, ladies and gentlemen. Don't leave trackside here at round 6 of the Shannons Nationals. We've still got 2 bumper races to go. And in fact, the last race of the weekend will decide the CAMS Endurance Championship. We swing now to the MRF Tyres, Australian production cars. I'm Darren Smith with Gary O'Brien from Auto Action right alongside me here. And we're about to jump away with a 45-minute production car race. They've had 4 races. Well, this is the 4th race for them this weekend. We've had Michael Hopp withdraw from the final race today, believe it or not, with a broken heater coil. Hasn't been able to get a spare one of those to get things back underway. Tom Needham will take no further part in his Mazda. There's something inside the diff. Didn't want to destroy the whole diff and gearbox. Being a front drive car, won't take any further part. I guess the surprising one for us is that Jake Camilleri has withdrawn from today as well. Similar sort of thing. They've got something gone wrong with the turbo and they didn't want to cause any further damage inside the engine. The Callaghan-Lillis entry has got a very big focus on the championship from here on in, and they don't need to do a battle with anyone else other than the people involved in the championships, and that is the Sharon BMW M4 this weekend. Gary O'Brien, welcome back to the commentary booth for 45 minutes of what's going to be, I would suggest, a pretty torrid production car race.
Well, if it was anything like yesterday afternoon's race, it certainly will be, but we haven't got the wet weather today that we had yesterday afternoon, although there was showers predicted for around 5 o'clock. Let's hope they hang off a little bit longer than that. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to race 4 of round 4 of the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series here at Sandown Raceway. As they line up, we're looking at the back of the Matt Holt and in the HSV Club Sport, a teammate to our current series leader in the
which is Chris Lillis in position number 4 in the VF Commodore. There is the front row of the grid. Bates to Agathos. And we go to Ian Saltieri, who will probably be gazumped in these weather conditions. Nice and dry here this afternoon. Lindsay Kearns to Lillis. Coulthard, Mamarello and Sinesi side by side in their I-30 ends in 7th and 8th. Then it is the Ian Sherrin car, the number 18 M4, the title hunt protagonist with Lillis 2 rows further back. Then it's Brad Carr in the next of the BMWs. Clay Eckhart in the number 19 135i BMW. Then Kyle Girton back to Dwayne West in the number 9 Commodore. One of those ones that we just mentioned that Lillis and Callaghan don't want to get mixed up with. They're here. They're almost interlopers this weekend, coming down to have a bit of a run and enjoy the MRF Australian Production Car Series. So Lillis and also Sharon keeping an eye out for getting ultimately a victory here, but one eye also on the championship as well, and not getting tangled up with those that aren't actually running every single round. Darren Forrest will bring the VZ Commodore, the rapid VZ Commodore, out of position number 14. Adam Gosling out of 15. Tom Needham won't be there. Hop, Camilleri and James not taking any further part in this round. 2 cars on the front row being the 4-wheel drive cars after having some good races in the wet. And from the back of the grid, it was Rick Bates in the Pearson-owned product car.
Yeah, actually 3 4-wheel drive cars up the front of the grid with the Usul Saltori VW Golf R on the second row. And that's because it was wet yesterday and they finished 1, 2 and 3 in the race. Dare say in this one, by the time they get to the back straight or at the end of the back straight, they may not be leading. Yeah,
there's the cars there, the Mustang, which has been rapid, qualified on the front row of the grid after qualifying sessions on Friday. This is their only race for today, and they were out in very heavy rain conditions yesterday. The M4 of the Sherrons buried down there in the field. Watch for that one off the start line. They will get an absolute blinder. Really good to see a great entry in Class C1 here this weekend. And Ian Saltieri leading the way there, obviously off 3rd spot, but focusing just a tad back on the number 14 and 15 car of Frank Mamarello and Alfie Sinesi. They've had their problems this weekend, but certainly qualifying back there on the floor, getting racing to get back on the 4th row there. They've done a tremendous job to do so. Connect with us at all of our social media platforms, hashtag SN19, Facebook /The Nationals, at Shannons Nats on Twitter, and we'd love to see all of your Instagram shots from around the track on our Instagram feed at Shannons National. Ricardo's races here in Victoria in 2020, but we've still got plenty of dates at Norwell, Sydney Motorsport Park, Luddenham, Baskerville in the 12th of October down there where they're running the Improved Production Nationals this year, and the Bend Motorsport 16th Park the Bend at 16th of November, the same weekend where there. We hope everyone's enjoyed the day that we're running here for the Very Special Kids, our charitable partner this weekend. 10% of all of our ticket sales being donated to that undeniable charity, the Very Special Kids. Jump on to www.thenationals.com.au and click on that ticket there, and please donate to that undeniable charity. Get all your racewear off the CAMS website, cams.com.au/shop, and get yourself some retro gear. Deck yourself out before you go to the next race meeting, whether it be here at Sandown or at the Adelaide Hills Rally, which is running live with us this weekend over there. And I believe Harry Bates doing a tremendous job. Molly Taylor has taken a couple of stages there. She's certainly been racing with the Car Sales TCR series right throughout this year, and obviously clashed with her Priority One, the Rally series, off to Coffs Harbour on the 15th to the 17th of November for Rally Australia. An absolute ripper event. Great shot there of Eli Evans in the Skoda going there a while ago. The Bend Motorsport Park is where the last round of the Shannons Nationals will be. Round 7, 15, 16, 17 of November. Please join us in the crown of the jewel of South Australians' sporting meccas. Get it over to Taylor Bend for that race. We're set for a race start for the home of horsepower here. Great fans watching on top of the garages there. Ready, set for the final race. Race 4 for the weekend. Rick Bates and Dimitri Agathos, we expect to jump away nicely. We do expect a couple of V8s to start to pull them back in there. Dimitri getting a very positive contact there on the clutches. Here comes the M4, car number 18. Won the Bathurst 6 Hour 2 years ago, and now trying to take a production car title. Getting the squeeze on now there with Lindsay Kearns, who very experienced racer at the wheel of that Mustang. Rick Bates leads the field through. A little bit of bump and rumble there between the Commodore and the WRX. The number 18. Sharon Rentals BMW lines up behind there as well. Saltieri starting to feel the heat as he feels the big HSV breathing down the hatchback of that Golf R. Certainly was one of the weapons of choice in the wet weather. And here comes the Sharon's M4 charging up the back straight.
Started out of position 9, is up to second already, or third, make that, as we see Rick Bates leading away, but right behind him, Lindsay Kearns in the Ford Mustang GT. Go back down through the field, you can see the number 75 charging through. That's Michael James in the Club Sport, making up some ground, but at the moment it's Bates leading. He has Kearns in second, Sharon in third. Then we've got a gap back to Lillis in fourth. Agathos from the front row back to fifth position, just ahead of Robert Coulthard in the Matt Holt HSV, is currently running in seventh position. Kyle Eckhart, who leads B1, is in eighth. Brad Carr, ninth, and Darren Forrest in 10th.
Michael James charging from the back of the grid as well in the non-championship contender Commodore, already up to 12th place. So he has had a huge gain coming up the back straight, just passing some of the Class C1 and another one of the B2 class cars there. So the home of horsepower certainly living up to its name as that big Commodore romps its way up the back straight. This is for second and third at the moment in this race. The Evo 10 driving away very, very nicely at the moment, guys. This car of Rick Bates really does have to get away early, doesn't it?
He does, because you will no doubt have Sharon breathing down his back before long, and now he makes a move on Kearns for second spot across turn 6. No, decides to pull back in and leave Kearns. Kearns currently leads on points over the 3 races we've had so far. He's ahead of Sharon in second spot. As we said, really floundered in the rain yesterday, didn't it? It just didn't have any traction at all, with the turbo kicking in and causing so much wheel spin, they just went backwards. Callahan Lewis currently third, Agathos and Boylan in fourth in the Subaru. Poor start from that car to be so far back after just a couple of laps. But Bates is the one that surprised me. He's actually pulled away from the Mustang in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, this is a guy that knows how to operate at a very high level at the wheel of the Shaw Wines Evo 10. Up the inside looks the M4, trying to get into the Aussie Muscle Class AM2 car there. But just eased out of it at the right point in time. Lindsay Kearns is not one that's going to give up, as we see Darren Forrest. He's returning to pit lane for unknown reasons at the moment. That's not compulsory pit stop window timing either. So let's have a look to see how German's finest goes up against North American muscle. The Mustang climbing the hill here. The Evo 10, have a look at this. The BMW looks to the inside. It's a brave move there with Ian Shannon, and he streams on through. Tremendous job there. Really brave stuff there, showing great faith in the gear underneath him. That's the back shot of the Darren Forrest car. The Race Fuels is supported category.
On it up's not always a positive sign so early in the race for that VZ HSV. And it, unfortunately, I think that's day done for them. In the meantime, now that Sharon has got past Kearns, he can concentrate on getting close to Bates, and that's always been the difference. Once you get to a car, getting past is a hard part, but then once you're through, you can start then put your head down and do some quick laps.
And Lindsay Kearns is one of those guys that knows how to hold you up too. He's not wanting to let you through. You won't get through. So Ian would have had to work pretty hard. That size him up and try and get out and chase Rick Bates at this point in time. Or maybe that was Lindsay's plan. Send the BMW through to chase down the leader and see who still remains at the end of this 45-minute race. 37 minutes left to go as we see Dimitri Agathos taking the long way around in 8th position off the back of the ripple strips there, and has got the number 19 Sharon car chasing him down.
They're actually dicing for the lead in B1 too, so they're the two cars in B1. That's the Subaru and the BMW there, and just ahead of them is the C1 Volkswagen of Ian Saltieri. Now that car was dynamite in the wet yesterday and really punched above its weight to get into third outright, and actually faster than the AM1 cars over the distance, picked off several of them. And in the final lap we did see Colby Cowan, who's in co-driving the Mustang this weekend, pit Nathan Callahan on the line to take fourth spot, move himself up the order. And
Jeb Ussel did a good job in the golf yesterday in those trying conditions, really did. Have a look at this.
Yeah, that's what I just
Challenge.
said.
Challenge. I was just agreeing with you, Gaz. That's all right. Challenge now out for the lead of this race. It really has gone from 1 hour from being able to take some time to size up your opposition to really starting to turn this into sort of a middle distance, if you like, or a longer sprint race with very fastest sectors in the M4. It's gone the fastest in this race, setting fastest sectors in sector 2 and 3.
And I was just going to
Still, it's
say,
the number 33 of Bates fastest in the first sector. Have a look at this run. Right round the outside, underneath the Shell Bridge, goes the M4 of Ian Shannon. Finds his way through there very nicely indeed. There's Michael Shannon there calling the shots for both the Shannon cars. Rick Bates not giving up though.
we did see a 19-second lap from Shannon in one of the earlier races, but none of the other cars could break under 20. But so far, we've seen both Bates and Kearns go into the 19s as well. They're still about half a second off the pace of the BMW, but now that Sharon's out in front, I'd be surprised if he doesn't even go quicker, maybe even get into an 18 perhaps.
Yeah, it's certainly possible there. They're now out in front, clean air out in front, so that will help them immensely to try and get the result that they need to get here. And that's the guy that's challenging them for outright in the Australian Production Car Series, although they run in different classes. We've got 3 HSVs fanning out across the track to the run down to turn 1.
One of the big difference there is that the 2 cars ahead are Club Sports running in AM1, their teammates as well. The third car in the contest there is the Dwayne West HSV GTS, which runs in A1. It's up against basically the BMW, the leading car in the race, and qualified very well, but unfortunately they had a bent strut. So they took the car away, they thought they were out for the weekend, they were going to have a look at what they could do with it. They came back for yesterday afternoon's race, so they missed 2. And look at the speed difference. That's what a supercharger does on your 6.2 litre HSV. It gets you past the cars that aren't being forced induced.
Tell you what, that's a shame. Michael James now into the lane there as well. And We've seen the other Commodore has exited the lane, being replaced by the Michael James car there. So that's a shame. It was going up the US Customs car and looking underneath the front of that car. Compulsory pit stop window just opening. So let's wait and see if we have a rush of pit stops like we did early on yesterday in the wet, trying to get in nice and early.
We must explain too, all the compulsory pit stop, everyone has to do it, obviously being compulsory. They have to take a wheel off and put it back on. But in the case of the A1 cars, they have to take 2 wheels off and put it back on. As we see this battle of the 4-wheel drives there between the Subaru and the Volkswagen.
So it's the compulsory pit stop as opposed to a mandatory pit stop.
They're exactly
you still have to do it.
Yes.
Sharon leading away, 1.5 seconds over Bates. Lindsay Kearns in the Mustang, not being able to answer these 2 cars just yet. And have a look at the Dwayne West car coming up the side of Lillis. And this is the kind of argument that the Callaghan-Lillis guys were talking about in between races, is that they just don't need to weigh in on it. Having said that, with Ian Sharon out the front of this race, they don't want to give him any points advantage
slow car
either.
Down in front of them, that's the James VZ. That made them check up very quickly. They could see that there was trouble brewing there, and it was a matter of trying to get out of the way for James, of course.
Not a good spot to be catching.
That wasn't the James car, it was the other...
Darren Forrest.
Forrest, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, getting out of the way out of Dandenong Road there. The big cars put
First
it out. Here it is.
in.
Compulsory pit stop. 2 wheels off the A1 class cars. 2 wheels off. So we'll see the mechanic undo the wheel, pull the wheel off. The other guy hands off it, back on. Very, very clearly written in the regulations. Wheel must come off, touch the ground, hands off it, and then can go back on. And we're seeing how these teams go about it. Very, very well drilled outfits. Of course, gloves being worn because very, very hot brakes. And that right front wheel is the hardest working part of a car around Sandown.
Our top 3 cars all pitted at the same time. So this is the test to see who's going to be first out.
It's a real match race at this point, isn't it? Absolutely. There they go. 2 wheels off the Class A1 car. So that's the disadvantage for the BMW M4. As it comes back out, the Sharon Rentals, number 18, back down pit lane. There's the Mustang. So joining on behind will be the guy that was leading the race. They've worked very hard over those first 7 laps, or first 5 laps to get into the lead. Got to do it all over again.
Yes, so Bates was the quickest of the 3, followed by Kearns, and of course with the 2 wheels off the Sharon BMW, they were going to be the slowest anyway, but not by much.
Not by much. Very well drilled crew, the Sharon team. They've been doing it for a long, long time now. Interesting coming into this particular race for this round. Kearns is on 90 points. That car, we're just watching the Sharons there, and here comes the Coulthard Holt car. And it's Rob Coulthard at the wheel there of the Kavanagh Holmes car. Lindsay Kearns on 90 points. Ian Sharon on 80. Lillis on 75. So just focusing on that, Gaz, for a moment, because Lillis is essentially, once the pit stops have been through, will drop back behind Sharon. So that championship lead will be well and truly into for those 2.
We did have an update on the points here for the round. And for the series coming into this round, Lillis
pit lane filling up now. Robert Coulthard in, Clay Eckhart in, Brad Carr in, Alf Senesi in the number 15 car. Mammarello being held out there, so the 2 next-gen team cars leading the team's championship or the team's points award. Very important result for the team. Big cash prize, and basically look after the budget to run next season. So they're working very hard to ensure that they capture that prize, the team's award to BMW's exiting the lane. The number 19 Sharon Rentals car, the number 8 CMA outfit of Brad Carr. They come back out in positions 11 and 12. Back into the fray. The Carr Motorsport Bradley Carr outfit, the M3. And that's the 135i, number 19.
We've got Agathos in the laters now. It's 26 points coming into the race between Lillis / Callaghan, because they both earn points for the races, and Sharon. So Sharon needs to beat Lillis home to at least claw some of that back. Plus, With the addition of an extra runner in the A1 class, he will earn more points in that series because it's based not only on where you finish in your class, but how many are in your class.
Absolutely. At the moment, it is Dwayne West leading the way over Ian Salteri. Both haven't done their compulsory pit stop. And here is the Paul Rasm, Darren Forrest car. Darren Forrest currently at the wheel, still experiencing issues in the custom transport equipment. Commodore out of Gippsland.
And on our corrected sheet where we take in who has pitted and forget who hasn't, Bates leads the way with Kearns in second, Sharon in third spot. So we knew that was going to happen because of the timing of the pit stops. But at the moment, it's Dwayne West who leads the race, Altieri in second, and Bates, of course, now in third spot as the first of the pitters.
So all of these cars running on the Control MRF treaded tyre or grooved tyre. Up on the ripple strips there, you can do that with the Subaru with the four-wheel drive. Doesn't upset them at all. Drive over the top of them. Probably in the wet, not a good idea. They get very slippery. But here is three protagonists, and they're absolutely going for it.
These two that we're actually looking at are still finding it out for Class B1 honours. And here's Dwayne West, who was leading the race, in to do their two-wheel stop.
The LSA power plant on board the GTS.
That's not a wrap, by the way. That's
a paint job, is it?
Yep. That's the undercoat.
They
liked it so much, they thought they'd keep it.
Yeah, good stuff. Here is the upside down number 14 coming into the lane. Let's hope it lands on its wheels.
Well, nearly didn't go on its wheels yet on
That's right.
Friday.
That's right.
When we say, it was the sister car actually, the 15, when we say that Alston Easy fenced it, we meant it. It was sitting on top of the fence. Delayed the start of the first race, of course.
And then had an indiscretion with the wall in the next day as well, so it did a bit of hub damage on that as well. So started off the weekend tough, but they're certainly working their way back into contention. Here comes the M4 up the back straight, plunging down into Dandenong Road. There's the slowing car there of Darren Forrest, the AM2 car. They're staying well and truly out of the way. Gaz, are they running this whole next 26 minutes just to get home and be classified in this race, going around slowly like that?
I assume they must be.
So what are they? 10? Oh, I guess they're going to drag home 23 points out of it, so it would be well worth it if they get to the end of the Tail and Bend event on the 15th, 16th and 17th of November, and it's 1 point that they needed and they didn't hang out for 23 here this afternoon.
At the moment now, we've had Ian Salteri bring the Volkswagen into the pits. He was the race leader, so he drops down. Rick Bates now heads the field, and he's 7.1 seconds up on Kearns, who has 1.8 seconds on Ian Sharon. Rob Coulthard has leapfrogged his teammate. Is that you?
Not me. Not today.
Coulthard has leapfrogged his teammate Lillis to be in fourth position. Kyle Eckhart leads B1 and is in sixth place ahead of Dimitri Agapov. They were really praying for rain today. They actually went a different way to what a lot of the two driver teams did. A lot of them decided they'd alternate their drives.
Nothing like having friends in your pit crew, is there, Gaz?
Indeed.
Putting up descriptive words of the driver there.
Here's how the two teammates were talking about, and they're possibly going to try and redress, or Lillis is trying to redress the situation with
it looks like they're going to race for it, not redress it. They're certainly getting
well, he wants to redress it. I don't think Rob Coulthard does.
Get out of the way, Rob. I'm in this for a season.
Yeah, you've only just turned up for one race meeting. The point I was going to make with Agafos is they went the opposite way. Matt Boylan did the first two races knowing that the weather was going to turn foul, so to speak, and decided Dimitri Agafos would do the second two races figuring it was going to be wet by that stage. However, so far it's been dry today. It was wet yesterday and their plan worked perfectly. Hasn't so much this day. Now Lillis gets a run on the inside of Coulthard down to turn one, can't quite do it. Does get a better run out of the corner because Coulthard runs a bit wide. That's one way to get the spot back.
So just a quick couple of updates if you've come out here this afternoon. Michael Hopp withdrawn from the race with an issue with a heater coil. Tom Needham taking no further part after a gearbox or differential driveline issue. Jake Camilleri is taking no further part after there was an engine issue as well. So if you've come out to see those teams, unfortunately, taking no further part. We're in the final 23 minutes of these 4 races this weekend. They started on Friday afternoon with race 1. We had 2 races yesterday, one in the morning and then one as a darkening skies over Melbourne in the rain. And this final one here this afternoon. This is a really good display of the Australian Production Car Series, how when it is in the dry, a great mix of cars are certainly eligible for victory. We've got a 4-cylinder, 4-wheel drive turbocharged car leading the way. We've got a normally aspirated big V8, 5-litre V8 in second place, and a twin turbocharged BMW M4 right in behind there. Then we go to a big V8 of Chris Lillis in the AM1 car, Rob Coulthard as well in there, another V8 in the HSV, Dimitri Agathos, turbocharged 4-cylinder, and so on through the list. Big array of different sorts of cars with different strengths and weaknesses, and of course in the wet. We saw the way the grid lined up at the start of this race. It was 4 four-wheel drive cars that filled those front rows of the grid. Rick Bates in the Evo, Dimitri Agathos in the WRX, and Ian Salteri in the Golf R. Ian Salteri currently leading C1 down in 9th place on the road.
Yeah, interesting, just to go back on the previous races we had. The top 3 in this race finished 2.4 seconds apart. Bates ahead of Sharon and Colby Cowan. Unfortunately, Bates was excluded from the results. They said that they overboosted. In the second race, Bates pulled into the pits so that they could check the boost, and then decided it wasn't worth contesting the rest of the race because they'd lost something like 6 laps. Fought back to win the 3rd race, so they have been pretty well dominant. Sharon's had a race win in race 2. Mainly because Lindsay Kern spun right down here at turn 9 on the penultimate lap while he was leading by 2.8 seconds. So they've been close results because of the strengths and weaknesses of the various cars that are competing, and not necessarily all in the same class. But this has been probably the most...
Last year, Rick Bates won 2 of the races on the weekend as well. So
yeah, and then he crashed into his boss.
Yeah, good line up to do exactly the same here this weekend. He did. That's right, and he's still driving for the team. So Rick Bates obviously much respected in the team and forgiven for his indiscretion. Yeah. So in Class A2 last year, it was Carl Begg in that Mercedes C63, and it was the guys that are actually leading this championship coming to this round with Lillis and Callahan that came home second there. Hadrian Morel and Mick Benson came home in B1. And in Class C, it was Blake Orban over Callum Jones and Colin Osborne. So C1 still being hotly contested here this weekend, with Ian Salteri leading the way there over Alfie Senesi and Frank Mamarella in the 2 i30N Hyundais.
This is still the battle for second we're looking at the moment. And while they can maintain positions they are, while Kearns can hold out, and you can see Sharon really on the anchors coming down into turn 1, tried a very late move, and he's just gone fastest in the race with a 19.36. He needs to get past Kearns pretty soon because it's almost 8 seconds up the road till they get to Bates, and we've got 20 minutes of this race remaining.
Yeah, I would suggest at the moment Rick Bates is enjoying knowing that this battle's going on with these two, but remember, it was only lap 3 or 4 where we saw Ian Sharon dispense with the Mustang. So the M4 has got what it needs to do. This is a pretty down the inside there. It's lining up as it run down under brakes into Dandenong Road here. Look to the inside corner, not being covered by the Mustang, but Sharon not really being able to pull it up in a straight line. Got a bit coil bound there at the corner. All the weight being thrust on the front axle of the BMW, and didn't manage to get that spot back, and now has to start all that hard work again. Lines it up. Nice smooth run on the straight for the BMW. Try and use the advantage they've got at the bottom of the long straight here as we go down to Eminata Francesca in pit lane.
Frank's behind the wheel, but Caden is here mastering the jack for those pit stops. Great job there, but all great news for you guys, leading that team award as well as the points for the championship in your class.
Yeah, it's good to come into the round leading both classes. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing this weekend with that golf doing so well, but yeah, we'll bounce back.
I know that you like driving around here in the wet. I mean, this is the first time you've been around this circuit. How have you found the experience?
Oh, unreal. Like the track is extremely bumpy, but yeah, with our suspension in the car, we can change it. So it really helps.
So wet or dry, do you think the Hyundai suits this kind of track?
Yeah, for sure. The TCR car goes well around here. We're going well around here. The safety car goes well around here. So yeah, it's really good.
Thanks, Caden. Good luck.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, Em. That's good get down there, because just off the back of what he was talking about, another dive there at the M4 for Shannons. So this is getting very willing here. Ian Sherrin wanting to get on with it. He got past pretty easily the last time round with Lindsay, and Lindsay is an out-and-out racer. In fact, he's one of the guys that I wouldn't want to be at this point in the weekend trying to get past on. He really does turn on a show if you try and get past him. My point I was going to try and prove on the team's awards was the two next-gen cars, the 14 and 15 of the Hyundais, currently in contention, particularly the 14 leading the team's awards coming into this race this weekend. The Full Gas Racing WRX is next, and then the Salteri car, the VW, is the next one in line for that team's award. And it's a good cash prize. It's a very hefty award. So they're definitely fighting it out there. So with the good run that Jem Musil and Ian Salteri have had this weekend, they'll close the gap right up to the Hyundai team this weekend. Yeah,
speaking of gaps, while ever Sherrin is close to Kearns, it's always going to be tight where we can get past at the end of the back straight. And here he had a look because he needed to either do it here or be very close out of turn 4. And what happened here, because he got out of the corner slow, he lost that momentum. And it dropped him back. So he's got to go and do all that again. In the meantime, Bates out to 9.2 seconds.
Have a look at this battle here. This is the Lillis car that's gone through now on Rob Coulthard, now dispensing with the current leaders of the team's award. They go streaming on by the Hyundai i30 from Next Gen Racing.
Actually, the classes are phenomenal at the moment, because this is leading Class AM1 and they're second in AM1. B1 is a similar margin, less than a second between them. So we've got two fantastic class dices going on, while in the mix with several others. So you can see the two HSVs in a Hyundai sandwich.
Dimitri Agathos throwing the Nova Employment WRX around at the top of the run into Dandenong Road, really proving that it can be a roller coaster ride once you dip into that left-hander at turn 6 and ride it all the way down to Dandenong Road. Some cars back to first gear to get out of that corner after such a big haul on the brakes. The number 19 BMW, being driven by Clay Eckhart, doing a tremendous job here this weekend, was featuring right at the very front of the race on Saturday morning, and now battling it out, as Gary has pointed out, for Class B1. 6th and 7th on the road is what we're looking at there. Rick Bates continues to lead. Now that lead has just been whittled away ever so slightly, because Ian Sherrin has done his fastest lap of the race. And at the moment, Lindsay Kearns just getting a very big handful with what's coming up behind him here, dispensing with the 86, and we just see Ian Sherrin getting out over the back of the ripple strip and losing his momentum run onto the straight. It's all important, isn't it? Out of that slow set of S's to get the keep the speed up, and we just see he's lost the good part of 4 or 5 car lengths coming out between.
Well, 0.3 of a second slower than the Mustang on that lap alone, and the Mustang's dipping into PBs, 19.7 the lap prior to this one. And Kearns is really playing the game. He's not doing anything wrong.
Nope.
He's just going out there and just making sure he's covering himself at every opportunity. There is pride in finishing ahead of the BMW, getting an outright second, and at the current rate, he would win the round, he and Kobe Calvin.
Absolutely would. They be well and truly clear of everyone. It's the Sherrins that are next, and there's some 13, 14 points behind on the run for this round. These two HSVs have been stuck together for the last 16 laps or so. 19 laps completed with 14 minutes remaining.
Hey.
There's that run there. Subaru sideways.
He just needs four-wheel steer now. He'll be
All-wheel
right.
drive, symmetrical. They say at Subaru land, and Dimitri Agathos getting very, very aggressive. Was that BMW coming to the lane then?
No, it's going slow, that's for sure.
It's gone to pit lane. No, it hasn't. There it is.
No,
Going slow,
his
wasn't
times have dropped off. At 20.5, he was half a second slower, or 0.3 of a second slower than Kearns on that lap. And in the meantime, Kearns is eating away at Bates' lead. It's down to 7.6 seconds.
So 13 minutes left to go. If they're going to chip away at it like that, that's a second a lap. He could be right on the back of him before the end of this race. Not a problem in the world.
This dice continues.
These two holding each other up. Are they slowing each other down?
No,
or are
they're
they
having fun.
having some fun with it?
Yeah, they certainly are, because they are teammates, and Rob Coulthard and Matt Holt are here this weekend. That's the number 65 car. They like the 1 hour races because they don't have the dry brake fuel system in that car. That car was built prior to the one that's leading them, and there's just some finer points of the lead car, the 64, that have been improved on when they built the...
The interesting thing is the New South Wales production car championship, which is what that car there, the number 65, generally will run in, not the endurance races. You see the Siamese dry brake system on the side of the Revolution roofing car. They don't have to have that. The interesting thing in 2020 is they'll align on tyre manufacturers. MRF will be both with New South Wales and the Australian production cars as we go to pit lane with Emma Francesca.
Just checking in with Aaron Cameron. Aaron, Kyle said he had a really difficult day yesterday, finished in 12th. It was very wet, obviously. What were some of the other challenges?
Yeah, look, we didn't give him the best car to drive in the wet, so apologies for that, Kyle. But yeah, if we had been today, we could have had a better car, but obviously now we've got a bit of an ABS fault, so he's just circulating around getting points, and so we can get the trophy at the end of the weekend.
Let's talk about TCR, because a 5th and a 7th for you today. I know you're a bit disappointed. Had a few struggles over the weekend?
Yeah, ultimately this wasn't our track for straight line speed, and we couldn't get the car working that well either, so to get away with a 5th and a 7th is relatively pretty good points, and look forward to Taylor Bend now.
Difficult for you, but you know how much fun it's been for us to watch, and the racing has been sensational.
Yeah, no, it was great. Today's race is lots of passing, contact, which I took advantage of a lot of the time, so that was really good, and I think Taylor Bend's going to be the same when there's still a lot on the line.
Thanks, Aaron. See you at the Bend.
Thanks.
Mark of a race driver there, isn't it? If there's passing to be done and you have to make contact, so be it.
I think he was saying it was the other contact allowed him to get by.
Allowed him to get in.
That's the way you should have phrased it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Here we go. This is the car that's leading the team's award for the championship this year, with 1 round left to go at Taylor Bend for this year. They're definitely in the box seat. Having said that, Ian Saltieri currently sitting in 10th place, and Jem Musil have acquitted themselves magnificently this weekend and will certainly have dragged back the points margin that those guys had in this year title hunt. It was only 5 points. And just looking at that scoreboard right now, Saltieri gets 68. How many does it's only 40, so Saltieri will be 24 points clear going forward.
Here's this battle keeps going on between these two club sports. VF Holden's originally, now of course club sport R8. And they'll be having a lot of fun out there, and they're learning from each other as well, lines, etc.
Well, it's interesting because we have spoken on the differences. The one in front is the Enduro setup car. It does have a proper racing fuel cell, which is located in the boot. And you can just see above the Bilstein shock absorber on the rear quarter there, the Siamese system for dry brake fuel. The car behind it doesn't have an endurance setup fuel system. So it runs a standard petrol tank, which sits underneath where the rear seat would ordinarily be. So the weight balance on that car is exceptional. It's in front of the rear axles, whereas the black car, or the Revolution roofing car leading the way there, it is behind the rear axle. So there is some gains and balances. The car in front there, the number 64 car, is about, I believe, 40 kilos lighter. So that's a huge advantage when you're corner weighting the car to get the balance set up for a track like this, where you need to be able to transfer that weight for ultimate acceleration.
Well, when you build your second car, you always build a little bit better than the first one, because you learn so much from your initial build, and that's what's happened there. Matt Holt was the guy that put most of the work into that lead car and is the co-driver of the second car. So that gives you that scenario, and there's still just 0.3 of a second between the pair of them, and just over 3 seconds now as Eckhart has managed to pull a little way from Agathos in that battle between the two B1 cars. We're currently running 6 and 7 on the road.
Okay, so now we're back to look at shots of 2 and 3 on the road. The Evo 10 is 6.7 seconds away. Lindsay Kern still chipping away at that. And the momentum has swung away from the number 18 Sharon Rentals car, hasn't it?
And the gaps between Rick Bates and Lindsay Kearns, we haven't seen much Rick Bates. He's 6.5 seconds up the road. That was out to almost 10 seconds at one stage. So that has come back. We've got just under 8.5 minutes of this race to go. And just harking back to your point about the MRF tyre, Daz, Nick Cox, who's co-driving the BMW with Adam Gosling, is currently running in 11th. Had not driven on the MRF before the wet race yesterday, and he'd already driven it in one of the early races in the dry. He said he's sold. He thinks they're great.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been too many rumblings out of this year. In fact, not any at all since Bathurst after they were so durable at Mount Panorama. Everyone's just making the necessary adjustments to the cars, because when they come away from a particular tyre and go to a different one, there is features and benefits of doing so they do have to adjust what they're doing with the suspension. And the engineers from MRF have been absolutely supreme with their advice to these teams. They've been absolutely all over it. They're here almost last at the track at the end of the day every night, making sure that everyone has got their setup right, their starting tyre pressures right. So that was the other thing that they had to get their head around, was the starting pressures on the MRF were way different to the previous control tyre. So it took a bit of thinking change to get everyone on board with that.
And the setup, i.e. a lot less camber for these tyres compared to some of the others that they've run. We can see Rick Bates now coming up on the back of these two Hyundais out of Class C, and immediately behind them, of course, is Dwayne West HSV GTS. And of course, Rick Bates, they brought 2 cars down, and Bob Pearson, I think, was at one stage thinking seriously about running the red car. This is the yellow car they've got here, and the difference is that the product down the side is in yellow, and on the other car it's red.
What about the 15 and the 14 here? Is the 14 lining up for a move on the team car? There is no orders. These are two, well, they look exactly the same, and they're in the same team. There's no orders to follow. It is, it's out there to race. There might be 2 I-30Ns from N-Gen Racing, but they're certainly here to equip themselves well. This battle's been going on now for about the last 14, 15 laps.
I think this is by design more than by as it turned out. I just noticed too that when Bates got on the back of West coming out of turn 9, that West gave the signal for him to go past. He wasn't about to hold him up, and it is Dwayne West's only second meeting in that HSV GTS. He did run the penultimate round of the New South Wales Production Car Series at Sydney Motorsport Park. I think it was at about the end of July, and unfortunately had some dramas, as we alluded to earlier with the bench strut.
Great to see that car finished off too. It's been a couple of years in the build there. They've really done a tremendous job to have a look over it. In fact, all these HSVs have done tremendous jobs on the build quality. Thought about it and put in supreme effort. A couple of different ways of going about things, and that's always going to be how the car builder looks at it. But certainly Dwayne West, great to have him on track. Currently sitting 9th on the road and 2nd in A1.
Yeah, and the Achilles heels with the big holes, of course, is their weight. Their good feature is their brakes. With the MRF tyre, of course, they're getting far better tyre wear than they would have previously had.
And of course, power on tap.
Yes, that's always handy.
That is very handy. Through turn 1, these two go again. Off the back of the ripple strip there goes Chris Lillis. Been around the production cars for quite some time now. Did a bit of saloon car racing as well out of Western Australia. They do a lot of travelling.
Nathan Callahan's saloon car guru as well. Raced in WA, or Chris did in WA, but also came over and did races on the eastern seaboard as well. when it was a full-blooded championship.
Just watching the back of the M4 there, getting a bit of a wiggle on under brakes as the front air dam just about hits the ground. The rears lift up, a little bit light there. Ian just following it with the steering wheel, keeping it nice and straight to point at the corner.
I wonder if they've had a overheating problem of some sort with that car, and that's why he backed off a little bit.
Maybe he went running so close there with the Mustang. Fair bit of disturbed air.
And I think probably Michael Sharon in the pits has said, well, it's only less than 4 minutes to go now, pal. You better get a move on if you want to get further up the field.
Time to pounce.
Yes.
Rick Bates' lead now down to 4.5 seconds. It's slowly being chipped away. I would suggest that this bit of traffic in front of them is going to put paid to any charge with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in this round of the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series. Let's go down to Emma Francesca covering pit lane for us.
It's always a pleasure catching up with Charles Sandown and leading that team award at the moment. $50,000, entry fees covered. What would it mean to you guys to win that?
We'll be back in next year. Otherwise we won't be because we can't afford to run. So it's going to be a real big help.
Good luck.
And the team has put a big effort in it, so we deserve it. And finishing 1 and 2 most of the year has been a great achievement.
Hope you get it. Always a pleasure. Good luck.
There's nothing like saying what you really think, is there?
Well, and the other thing is that I hate to break the bad news to him, but at the moment they're finishing 2 and 3 in C1 because it's Ian Salteri in the Volkswagen Golf R that's leading the way in Class C1. So
but
it's
one of the teams awards we're talking about.
Yeah, but they're also now going to be in front of the teams award too. So he wants to cool his jets a little bit there. Oh, the BMW has got through on the Mustang, using the traffic to their advantage as the BMW now, well, it's only 2 minutes and 30 left, 4.9 second lead to Rick Bates, and there's traffic playing into it as well now. So you'd have to say to Rick Bates, motor it on home, mate, because these guys have got to execute some traffic at this point in time.
Yeah, it'll still just going on that Kearns and
Whoa, the BMW getting sideways through the kink there. Was there a bit of a tap with the Mustang? Realise what's going on. Up on the ripple strip, trying to get through on the Brad Carr entry there. And he hasn't seen these two cars coming. And Lindsay Kearns, staying true to his nature, gets jiggy with it in the last minute and 50 seconds left in this race.
He'd like to beat him at the moment.
Absolutely, he'd like to beat him.
They currently still lead, he and Colby Cowan. But wouldn't it be nice to knock the BMW off in the last race of the day as well? And what it did is just allowed Rick Bates to blow out another second.
Here it is. Watch the BMW coming around underneath the Penrite Bridge here. Look at that. There, he's got it on a power slide. Lindsay's seen that and gone, I'll do it down here. As Ian's correcting it, he's just moved over in front there. Brad Carr taking the line. He's rightfully allowed to. And they've got through now on the white and black CMA BMW.
You know, he probably seen the blue flags but didn't know where they were.
They ducked into his blind spot. Talking about ducking into blind spots. The traffic alert on the front car here will be going absolutely nuts on the dashboard of that HSV. You've got another HSV that looks very similar to yours ranging up the side. As we look to the finish line, there goes these cars. These are cars 5 and 6 on the road. In fact, no, they're not. They're cars 4 and 5 on the road and cars 1 and 2 on the road for AM1. Here's our race leader on his MRF tyres, leading home the other one of the four-wheel drive cars that's actually down in 7th place, as Rick Bates drives the absolute wheels off the Evo 10 from Product Racing. A big congratulations to Bob Pearson and his team. The M4 home in 2nd place, only just to Lindsay Kearns in the Mustang. Tremendous finish to a very big weekend of MRF Tyres, Australian Production Car Series racing. Rick Bates came from the back after sitting in pit lane with question marks around what they were doing with that car, has come home with 2 victories again this weekend, like he did last year at this round.
Indeed he has, and we'll finish the weekend by the look of it, equal with Eckhart on 72 points, but there's a couple in front of them, i.e.
they're 6th or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So we're not getting a result for 2 races. That's not too bad, is it? There it is, Rick Bates, or Richard to his friends and family. The Product Motorsport Mitsubishi Evo X home in 1st place. Ian Sharon for Sharon Rentals in the BMW M4, 6 seconds behind. In the end, Lindsay Kearns for CK Motorsport in the Mustang. Chris Lillis in the Jack Motorsport home. Leads home AM1. Rob Coulthard right in behind. A very close margin for AM1. Clay Eckhart comes home in 6th place and first in B1. Second in B1 will be Dimitri Agathos right in behind. Dwayne West home. Fantastic to have Dwayne here in the HSV VF GTS. Brad Carr next in the Car Motorsport BMW. Adam Gosling 11th. Alfie Sinessi 12th. Frank Mammarello in 13th, beating home the Alfie beating home the team car there. Kyle Girton, Darren Forrest and Michael James finishing 4 and 10 laps down respectively. There's the points for us for the weekend. Lindsay Kearns takes the round, 117 points. Ian Sharon with 11. And Gaz, this was the start. Look at the clutch work on that those two four-wheel drive cars.
Well, the 3 4-wheel drive cars all seemed to bite off pretty well, but it wasn't long before Ian Sharon found his way to the front of the field as we expected. Started out at 9th position, and there he goes into the lead. And you can see it got a bit congested back here amongst a few of the HSVs, as one of the other HSVs got a little bit slow there, and a call to the pits, as you can see. Won't go any further than that one.
Handing out resumes there, the team, were they? Oh, what's going on there?
And
this battle raged on for 20 laps between the two HSVs. And here's the run with the BMW M4. Looks to the inside. Got willing, did Lindsay Kearns. Up on the rip strip goes the Sharon car. Ian Sharon taking evasive action at the end. And here comes our eventual race winner. 2 wins from this weekend out of that car. And we have got the Australian Endurance Championship coming up next here at the Shannons Nationals. Back in a moment.